Okay, hope you guys enjoyed the lunch. I don't know if most of you are here today for the food or to listen to a bunch of geeks babble about their science, but I'll promise to be a compromise between both, because I'm a geek who's going to talk about food. So I'm going to talk about how I ended up where I am. I used to dream about being a chef, but now I'm a food engineer. So I'd like to give a story about myself. About 10 years ago, there was a little boy who lived in a country called Malaysia, which is located at the southeast of the Asia continent. And he loved food. Like, he likes to look at food, he likes to make food, he likes to eat food. Right? That's the most important one, to eat. So it's only natural that I wanted to be a chef. But not just any chef. I wanted to be like a pastry chef. You know, the ones who do those chocolate, cupcakes, pastries, those pretty things. And there was a hitch to that. Like, you have to learn how to make chocolate properly if you want to make pastry. So there is some science in that. And I was looking around, what job is that called? It's called molecular gastronomist. And you can see that there's no department in UNL that offers molecular gastronomy, right? So I figured that maybe that field is actually called food science. So I flew halfway across the world to Nebraska, and on the first day I landed here, I expected to see food, but what I found was a winter storm, right? So that was not a good introduction to Nebraska, but that is what we all face here every half of the year. But over time, I found that there were some nice things about Nebraska. Like, we had a lot of variety of food here. Like, this is a picture I took at Super Saver, and they had a wide variety of summer squashes and corn. And there's also a large variety of wildlife here. Like, right in front of the new innovation campus right now, it's like a ground where all the geese come to congregate every few months. So it's quite a nice place in the end. And perhaps better yet is the food science program that I'm enrolled in. Like, this is caviar, which is not really caviar. It's actually fake caviar. So one of the things we learn to make in the food science program is fake caviar. So the one at the top right there, that's a fruit pearl. You make it out of fruit juices. You add some gum in it, and you dip it in some salt solutions, and you get some kind of fake caviar. And the other one is made out of Coke. So we learn how to make this kind of unique food products. And here's a picture of a chocolate noodle. So if you're bored of ramen or spaghetti, you could try having a dessert made out of chocolate. And this was one of the first times that I learned that research is not always what you think it is. Like, occasionally, you do fail. So I tried making it in the lab, and my group failed because I think we missed one part of it. But this was a humbling experience. It taught me that research is not always, your hypothesis is not always right. So at that point, I was closing to the end of my undergrad program. I was wondering what to do. Right? My original ambition was to be a pastry chef, a molecular gastronomist, whatever. But I remembered that, you could fail. Right? There's a high chance of failure, right? If you don't understand the science behind it, you could fail miserably and end up with a plate of chocolate goo. So I wanted to try my hand at research. So I joined the lab of my current advisor, Dr. J.M. Subai, who's here today, because I wanted to learn what research is like, to test your hypothesis and see if it's true or not, and what can you do from there. My first research project wasn't making caviar. It wasn't making chocolate noodles. It was dealing with this thing. Okay, so it's not about making food anymore. It's about radio frequency heating. So it's a large metal enclosure. It looks like a microwave oven. It operates like a microwave oven, but it uses a different wavelength. And the reason why people are interested in this is supposedly it heats more uniformly compared to microwave oven. So the first part of the project is to heat eggs in it. So here, I'm putting an egg in the middle of the oven. Sounds simple enough. Just put an egg there, turn on the machine, Oh yeah, we pasteurized the egg. No, it doesn't work like that. That's not how research works, right? So it failed. So I tried to put the other positions, like put it at the front, put it at the back, put it there, there, anywhere. Okay, you see where this is going, right? Everywhere. Like you can put it anywhere in your oven and you won't know if it's going to work because it's a try and error kind of method. Like you just put it there and hope that it works, and if it doesn't work, then you try again. So at this point, I was a bit in a rut because it wasn't working well. And in addition to that, there were some spectacles happening in the in the radio frequency oven. Like if you put a product at a wrong location, you're going to have some arcing occur. It's like a mini lightning inside the oven. And your eggs might spontaneously combust into flames at one side, and the rest of it remains cool. Like it's room temperature and one side it's burning. So it's kind of unique. So it is a rut because what do I do now? I wanted to be a pastry chef, a molecular gastronomist, and here I am stuck putting eggs in an oven trying to make it work. So I attended a seminar by one of seniors in our lab, Jiajia, and he was doing modeling of microwave ovens. So that's a plate of mashed potato inside a microwave oven, and you can actually simulate how it heats up in the microwave oven. And you know that microwave oven is not always uniform. So there was a problem of non-uniform heating right there. Like the center is cold and outside is hot. But the amazing thing is, if you do the experiments like he did, you found out that the simulation actually agree well with the experiments. Like the outer parts are always hot and the inner parts are cold. So that was nice. These pictures are pretty and I like pretty things. So I want to try to do modeling. So I went and learned from him. I went to learn from another professor. And I managed to build my model of the radio frequency oven for the eggs. And this was all created with finite element modeling, where you actually discretize the domain into elements and you solve the equation to get your solution. So after solving, I found the problem. So if you look at this picture, if it's red, that means it's hot. If it's blue, that means it's cold. So you see that most of the heat is up here. And that's not what we want. We want most of the heat to be in the yolk because that's where the bacteria usually is. And if you study the temperature, around this range, that's when the egg white starts to cook. You know, just like the omelet you just ate, becomes like a gel. And this is what the simulations predict. So I tried it. I did the experiments and all of that. And what I found that was it actually predicted the real stuff. Like if you look, this is inside the shell. You can see there's like a ring there all around here. And even when you pull out the egg, you see that only one part of the egg is cold. That was the part that was touching here. So this was when I realized that I was doing something wrong for a whole semester, right? But I learned another thing. This modeling, all these visual images, can actually help me to identify a problem and find a solution. And the solution was quite straightforward. Like if the heating is occurring here, then if you study it in detail, like you zoom in into that region and just look at where that cooking was occurring. So that's the egg shell, the air cell, and the egg white. So there's this region where the electric field is trying to avoid that air cell. Like they're coming in here, they're not going straight down. They're like trying to avoid this air cell like it's a dead zone. And they all come here and congregate here. And that's why there was like that cooking at that small spot. So if you want, you can think of it as an analogy. It's like you're driving on a highway and this car is trying to merge into you. So there's like, a lot of cars going to one small spot. So that's why that cooking was occurring there. So what are the ways to solve it? Like first you dip it in the water, okay? That's to release some of the heat. Since it's closer to the outside, the water could help to relieve that heat. The other thing is, if you dip it in water, you no longer have this problem of concentration of electric field. Instead, you have like multiple pathways because the water actually behaves similarly to the egg. So to the electric field, the whole thing is an egg, and the field just goes straight down. So that was the whole plan. And it worked out pretty well. Like, after doing that method, you see that the center is now hotter compared to the outside. And this model also allows us to see, like, over time what's happening. And you can see that over time, the center is being heated while the outside is remaining cold. And that was amazing because I wasn't able to do this by just try and error. So when I did validation by putting thermocouples into there, I saw that over time, the simulation actually agreed pretty well with the experiment, the green and the red line. The blue line, well, that's the limitation of research, right? Occasionally, we make wrong assumptions, so sometimes we do have some issues that need to be addressed. That will be my future research, I guess. So the models also allows us to do other things like visualize heat transfer, and it also looks like other things. Like this was a picture of a resonant cavity, and it looks just like a rose. And I have to thank my advisor, and he was the one who helped me in this modeling, and of course all my lab mates. And there's one observation I would like to make here. Like the happiest guy in this picture, I think it's me, right? And I started off wanting to make pastry. I ended up in this situation, and I turned to modeling. And if you look at the progression of happiness, I think I'm happy where I am today, to be a food engineer instead of a chef. So thank you.